so in the last video, I talked about marriage, and somebody in the comments said, hey, why don't you give a tutorial about marriage? I am not someone that does tutorials yet, but because of that comment, I'm making this video, and it is 5 things that I did to practically help my marriage. Number 1, have a common goal. When you first get to know somebody, you're in the dating stage. The goal is to get them to like you and to keep their attention and to continue making them like you, whatever it is. That's always the goal. As you move on throughout the relationship, you both are still, trying to get each other to like each other. But then it's the next step. Okay, maybe it's the proposal, maybe it's the marriage. After that, a house, then a baby, then a car, then a career. So you guys are both going towards that same common goal. But what happens when that goal disappears or it gets achieved? What's next after that? You still have to have a goal. So for Julie and I, our goal has always been our relationship with God. There isn't the struggle on a horizontal playing field between me and her. That's not, the goal isn't for me to get as close to her, but the goal is instead for me to get as close to God as possible and for it to be more of a vertical goal. So if you imagine this, all right? Imagine a ladder is in between my wife and I, all right? There's no way to get to her because that goal or the issue or whatever it is between us is between us. But the only way for us to actually get closer to each other is by ascending each side of our ladder. So for us, our faith has been placed at the top, but the closer we get to the top and the closer that we ascend that ladder and get towards that common goal, the closer we get to each other at the top. So at the base, we're at the furthest part that we can possibly be from each other. And at the top, we're as close as we possibly can be to each other, as well as getting as close to our goal as possible. Number 2, I think I mentioned this in the last video, and it was a quote that Julie said, and it was, be the spouse that you want to have. And this is super important because we get so concentrated on who the other person is rather than who we are. Everybody does, it's not everybody, but I think most people have a list of this person has to look this certain way, have this type of job, make this kind of money, drive this type of car, work at this type of place, be from this type of area, have this certain nationality, and they have all this list of things that they should be. But how many of us actually make a list of what we should be? To improve your marriage, or before, maybe you're single out there, instead of making a list for your spouse, instead of making a list for your ideal husband or wife, make a list for the idea that make that list, but guess what? You fulfill that list. Now, when thinking about that, obviously, if it's they need to look a certain way, you shouldn't look that way, but all the other qualities you're looking for, hold yourself to the same standard and be the person that you want to be with. Number 3, I read this book called The 5 Love Languages. I'm not going to tell you the whole entire book and everything that's in it because I'd rather you read it because it's a great book. But it talks about 5 different love languages in the way that we love each other, or the way that we receive love actually. And we all have our idea of what love should be because that's the way that we receive love. But the goal of this book is to figure out how your spouse or significant other, how they receive love, and then love them in the way that they are loved. There's 5, and it's physical touch, words of affirmation, acts of service, gifts, giving, and I don't remember the 5th one, but it's in there. But for all of you out there, read. I recommend reading the book. I'll put a link below so that you can find the book easily. Read the book and figure out what exactly is the way that they are loved. All right, number 4, don't stop dating your spouse. I think there's a moment in time where, like I said in the very first tip, is that you've achieved everything and you feel like there's nothing else to go for, but there is still cultivating your own relationship and getting to know them. There's this movie, I don't remember what the movie was, but I remember a line in the movie where one guy was telling another guy that when you get married, you're graduating high school for the knowledge of your wife. So you've learned her all the way up to that point and you've just graduated high school. You're now married to her. But from that point, you should continue to learn who she is and learn about her and graduate from college, your associate's degree, your bachelor's degree, your master's, your doctorate. continue on learning and studying your wife. When you first are trying to date them, you're doing all you can. What do I need to do to get her to like me? You're figuring it out. Don't stop doing that. The things that attracted her to you in the beginning are the things that you should continue to do to continue to keep her attracted to you. And number 5, we all at some point get in some sort of argument with our wives, husbands. It happens. And if it doesn't happen, it's gonna happen. But in those times, are you trying to defend or are you on the offense? There shouldn't be either, because you're on the same team. The same team doesn't play defense against the same team. The same team doesn't play offense against the same team. So first thing you need to realize, that we need to realize, is that we're on the same team. No reason to fight each other. So don't go all of a sudden into defensive mode, and don't go into offensive mode and try to destroy or defend. That's not the goal, because the goal is, the first thing that you love each other, start with that base. Okay, now how do we resolve whatever this is? So the only way to do that is to try and understand their point of view. It doesn't mean you always have to agree, but your first goal is, let me understand where they're coming from. Let me understand how I hurt them. Let me understand how I can make this better. That should be the goal. Reconciliation and mending and fixing whatever was broken should always be the goal, because you should always work from the standpoint that you love each other and that you're on the same team. So those are 5 tips that I have, that I've actually done in my marriage to improve it and to make it better. It is always a work in progress, so don't ever think that because it's going good, that it's good for life. We have bad days, but you struggle through the bad days to get to the good days. So if you're struggling today, hopefully you can use some of those tips to get towards the good days, but the more good days you have, they'll build upon each other, and it should be more of a normal thing for you, or for us, or yeah, right?